Hey, it's Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid, and I have to start off with an apology to everyone for yesterday's show. I was not at my best. Not even close. I had just woken up, I was all verklempt and all that stuff. I just come home from a conference which I had a great time at, and I learned a whole bunch about doing better with video. And what did I do? I gave you a half-ass show, and I apologize. I was going through it and looking through. There are things in this issue that I wanted to point out to you. Things that were, I think, important overall, and I did not get to do that because I just was not up to snuff. And so what I want to show you is just something that I noticed is that, okay, so if you look here, okay, these two guys here, this one and this one. Now that is Gort, and that is Stylor. And in this issue, they messed up the two guys. They mixed up Gort and Stylor as to who they were. And that was something that as I was reading through, I was like, oh, man, why did they do that? And it just stood out to me as something that I should probably tell you, and I didn't. So I'm kind of annoyed with myself. But today we are looking at the number 4 issue of Transformers Headmasters, and this is the introduction of the Targetmasters. Look, there's Hot Rod right there, and you can see up in the corner it says Fierce Final Issue. So we are looking at the Fierce Final Issue of Transformers Headmasters. Let's get to it. All right. As we see, the Targetmasters, and let's get into the first page. So we start off, and the Decepticons are trashing the Mercury Gardens. This is a place in Nebulos that has seen untold beauty for years, and now it's going to get trashed by the Decepticons. Now, the Decepticons, as you know, in the last issue, they now have Decepticon Headmasters. So Scorponok, Apeface, Snapdragon. Let's see, who else? There's a couple other guys that are headmasters on the Decepticon side. And their power increased exponentially. They're stronger than the Autobots. The Decepticons are always a bit stronger than the Autobots. And the Autobots had an upper hand when they were with the Nebulans to create the first Headmasters. So, now that Decepticons have their own Headmasters, then that's gonna be a problem. Okay, so let's go to the next page here. So there's only 3 Autobots who are fighting them, and they are Repugnus, Doublecross, and Grotesque. So some of these that look like monsters, they look like they could be Decepticons, but they're actually Autobots. And so we see that the Decepticons have their Headmasters, and then we get onto the other page here, and the people who are, the Nebulans who are Headmasters are Vorath, Spasma, Monzo, and if we recall from yesterday's issue, which I probably didn't point out, but they got this guy Monzo. They put him in a bubble as like a test subject. Well, they used Monzo as one of the headmasters, and I think he's Snapdragon's headmaster. It's hard for me to tell all of the Decepticons and who exactly they are, but let's see. Grax is oh shoot, what's his name? Mindwipe. So he's more of a bat. And which makes sense because Grax, he owns the communication station, and Mindwipe, you know, in some ways, a bit of like communications where he takes over people's minds and stuff. Let's see, and there's Krunk. So Vorath, Spasma, Monzo, Krunk, Grax, and Lord Zarak. So there's actually 6 of the Decepticon headmasters, where there's only 5 of the Autobot ones. So again, they are outnumbering them all together. You'll also notice that on this page here, we got the Decepticons standing around, and there's a bunch of Autobots that apparently they're never going to function again. So it wasn't just Repugnus and Grotesque and Doublecross. There was also some other Autobots, and they're dead. We have no idea who they are. They came with the Autobots. They're dead. We'll never know who they are. As the 3 Autobots that were still alive, as they retreated, the Decepticons changed into their headmaster people, and Zarak, you know, is basically, you know, he's going on, and the news network shows up. So they have these little hovercrafts in Nebulos, and the news network shows up, and they basically ask him, you know, what went on, and so Zarak tells them all the events of what has happened so far, and it's pretty biased, basically telling everybody that Galen is the evil one, and this is what happened, and Galen working with the Autobots has ruined their world, and so they called for some Decepticons to help, and so the Decepticons arrived quickly on Nebulos, and with their help I defeated Galen and his cronies, but many others remain at large. So they're going after the other Autobots that are out there. And Zarak is, obviously very one-sided. And so the news network then asks him, do you consider today's battle a victory for you and for Nebulos? And he looks over and he sees all the destruction and he simply says yes. He is being corrupted big time by being Scorponok's head for the Headmasters. He is totally outside of, even more so a jerk than he actually, was at the beginning. He's being completely corrupted here, and that's not a good thing at all. So Repugnus and the other Autobots, they come back to the Autobot base in the swamp, and in the swamp we have, let's see, so we've got Blurr and Cup and Crosshairs and a couple other guys. And then at the bottom, we see there's 5 or 6. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 new Nebulans that come. And because all the people out there are considering them criminals because they've aligned themselves with Galen, they are going by code names. And as their code names, they've got, Pinpointer, Peacemaker, Sparks, Recoil, Haywire, Spoilsport. So these guys, we'll see in a moment, they've undergone the bioengineering, they're obviously in armor, so something is going to happen with those guys. And I didn't pick up on it, I've read this like 3 or 4 times here. I didn't quite pick up on it at first, but I didn't realize that the Autobots knew that these guys had gone through the bioengineering to become their weapons. And this is the advent of the Targetmasters. So these 6 guys became the 6 weapons of the 6 Autobots who gave up their weapons. And so they're Autobots like Point Blank, Crosshairs, let's see who else there is, Blurr, Cup, Hot Rod, and there's one other guy, and I gotta find out who he is when I can figure it out. So we're there at the base, and Hot Rod picks up a transmission from Earth. So you can see right here, Hot Rod is working the communications, and he gets a transmission from Earth, and it is a weird message asking for help of Autobots from another planet. So they doesn't exactly say Earth at this point. Location, coordinates, environmental readout show this world seems very similar to Nebulos. So they want. Some of these guys want to leave already, but they can't leave right now because the rest of the Headmasters have been captured, and they need to go and try to free them. But before that, the 6 Nebulan people who are now going to be Targetmasters, they came to warn the Autobots that the Decepticons are going to attack a place called the Nursery, and the Nursery is a very important place for the future of Nebulos. It's very important for the people of Nebulos. It's a very important place. And so they're going to go off to the Nursery and protect it. Meanwhile, at Karaja, the capital city of Nebulos, we have Grax is at the communication station, and Vorath. I thought Grax was the one. All right, well, no. Vorath, yeah, okay. So Vorath, he gets the transmission that Hot Rod had too. So he picks up the transmission from Earth as well. And Zarak tells him to continue monitoring. He has other matters to attend to. So he goes in to where all of the Headmasters have been captured and the Nebulan people. And his daughter Lyra is there, and she's looking on at Galen, and she's crying. And, the man I once loved, he's become the most hated man on Nebulos. And there's Galen. And so Zarak has him, woken up and reanimated. And he becomes conscious, and he tries to talk to Lyra, and he says to Zarak, Zarek, tell her the truth. You know, I've done nothing to harm Nebulos. And she won't hear any of it. She will not hear any of that. She is, you know, that's it. I'm done with you. And Zarek says, you know, love no longer blinds my daughter. She sees you for who you really are, Galen. And, you know, Galen says, you've turned friends, family, Nebulans, everywhere, even the one I love against me, Zarek. Why do you wake me up now? What else could you want from me? And he's like, I want your life. I will demand death penalty at your trial. You know, after all you've taken from me, that's the least you could have, you know, I have to lose. So, Zarek is crazy. You know, and he's telling Galen, you know, he's got a dwindling group of sympathizers, and they're going to hunt them down, and they're going to destroy them. And Galen says, you know, no doubt you're going to destroy much of Nebulos in the meantime, too. You know, you're destroying the very thing you swore to protect, and now you're so drunk on your newfound power, you can't even see it. And Zarek says, no, that's a lie. The Decepticons are our partners. They have no influence on me. They can't. And so then someone comes in and says, Zarek, we've received word of an Autobot sighting at the nursery, so he's got to take off and leave. So, you know, here's Zarek and Galen talking. So they go out to the heads of the Decepticons, I mean the bodies of the Decepticons. They all transform, and they actually say transform and roll out. Why? I don't know. And they say the word human in here so many times. They're Nebulans, okay? So they say, like, you know, you could act more human or be more human. You're not humans. You're Nebulans. It's different. So here's the nursery. Nursery looks like a pretty amazing place, okay? And what they do at the nursery is it takes care of, let's see, new food sources, new medicines, new fibers. The nursery is provided for all of our people, and they give it to the people freely. So when the Autobots arrive, so we've got, let's see, oh, it's Sureshot that I was missing. So we got Sureshot, Crosshairs, Cup, Blurr, and Hot Rod, as well as Point Blank. So Point Blank is kind of like the leader of these Targetmasters. And when they arrive, the Nebulans the Nebulans are driving, or they're riding, and they transform and they get out of the cars and they talk with this woman here. And the woman who's in charge is Selani. Selani, S-E-L-A-N-A-A-N-I. So she is the senior botanical engineer, and she talks to them about what, you know, the nursery can do. And as she's talking to them, the Decepticons show up. Now, I found this really interesting, and I didn't quite realize it until I kept reading more. The Decepticons, whenever you kind of, instead of coloring them all together, they color them in as red, and they color the Autobots in as blue. So when they're having a big fight and they're not really going to color the individual character, they color him in as red or blue. And the Decepticons attack. The Autobots are like, you know, I hope this works, Point Blank. I hate going to battle without a gun in my hand module. And that'll change. And he has the Nebulans. They're up above them, and they jump down. And as they jump down, they transform into new weapons for these guys. And now they call themselves the Targetmasters. Zarek's like, who the heck are the Targetmasters? And then the Targetmasters show them who they are, and they blast away at the Decepticons. So they've got these new weapons that are the Nebulan people, and now they're fighting with the Decepticons. Now the Decepticons are just beside themselves. You know, I thought they said they were weaponless. You know, what are they shooting at? Bug bot repellent? You know, and he's like, shut up and fight them. So it's actually the Headmasters plus the Terracons. Who knows where the Technobots are at this point, but the Terracons are fighting them. They don't turn into Abominus in this instance, but as they're fighting, the nursery is just getting completely trashed, as it would. You know, the Autobots standing in front of it, and it's just getting trash. The Autobots decide, you know, it's getting destroyed, we better leave. Yeah, it's getting destroyed. Look at it. You know, that is like the cures for all their diseases and things like that, and they're just destroying it. Sound like any, you know, thing that's going on anytime around anywhere? So they retreat, and Lord Zarek realizes, he sees the devastation that happens, and he says, you know, I've become drunk on power, just like Galen said. So he didn't know what he was really doing. And, you know, that part's in ruins. So they return. The Decepticons return to their base, and when they return to their base, Vorath has created. I'm sorry, that's a few days later. They couldn't do that right away, so we get back and all of a sudden we've duplicated the Targetmasters. No, it's a few days later. And Vorath he must be some sort of scientist or something for them, but he's created the Decepticon Targetmasters. So here we got the Decepticon Targetmasters, and there's some characters that we know from the Transformers the movie. So we've got Slugslinger, who is not one of those, but we've got Triggerhappy, Scourge, Misfire, and Cyclonus. So Scourge and Cyclonus, we know them from Transformers the movie. And so there's 5 Nebulan recruits who are now the weapons. So it's interesting. There are 6 Targetmaster Autobots, but there are 5 Targetmaster Decepticons. There are 6 Decepticon Headmasters, but there are 5 Autobot Headmasters. Just interesting how they switch that out. Zarak then, as he sees this, he decides, I've got to do something here. And he walks right by his daughter, and it's like, not now. And he goes into the detention cell, and he says, let no one else enter. And he tells Krunk to activate Galen, so he revives Galen. Galen and Zarak talk together here, and he says, what is it now, Zarak? And Zarak says, you're the only one who can understand. Each time I combine with Scorponok, it gets worse. He's reprogramming my mind and making me do things. Why don't you just leave me alone, Galen says. Galen, if I don't see you again in this world, I will see you again in the next one. And he says, has Nebulan justice been so corrupted that my death sentence has been passed before my trial? And Zarak says, no, not your death. The world I speak of is Earth. Ask your Autobot friends about it when you see them again. And he says again, so Zarak then punches out Krunk, and he releases the five people who are the Nebulans, who are now Headmasters. So he releases those 5, and again, as I said earlier, they mix up Gort and Stylor. They say that this guy's Gort and that guy's Stylor. Gort has blonde hair. Stylor has black hair. And again, 2 issues they're correct, 2 issues they're wrong. The Autobot Headmasters then connect with their Autobot friends, the Fortress Maximus, Hardhead, Highbrow, Brainstorm, and Chromedome. Fights with all of those, and connect with all of those. And meanwhile, Zarak goes running out of that detention center, runs into Lyra, and tells them it's too late. They've escaped, and here come the Autobots. Again, we're not going to color them. They're just going to put them in red. And they smash down the door, and they fight with the Decepticons. So they're fighting with it looks like they're fighting with the Decepticon Headmasters. So the Decepticons, the Autobots, they're fighting, and as they're fighting with each other, Lord Zarak, he feels the call of the battle. And his daughter is trying to talk to them. You were in the detention cell. What happened? How could they have escaped? And he says, the battle, I hear it. And she says, Father, answer me. Did you help them? And he says to himself, it grows, it swells. Father, and he says, it calls to me. And he just turns his back on her, and he goes out to the battle. And, nope, I was wrong. I said Decepticons in red. No, it's Autobots in blue and Decepticons in red. Or did I say Autobots in red? They even mixed up here. Okay. Autobots they put in red. Then on the next page, they put the Autobots in blue. Okay? Autobots in blue, Decepticons in red. If we say from the beginning of this issue, as I was saying, when they don't want to color them, they put the Autobots... I don't know, we'll have to rewind. But I think I said they put the Autobots in blue, the Decepticons in red. And then they just, mixed it up. Yeah. See, the Targetmasters, they're all in blue. Now the Autobots are in blue and the Decepticons are in red. But, you can tell who they are, like Cyclonus and Scourge, some of the other guys. I don't really get who exactly are the other guys. I don't remember them all. And so the Autobots and the Decepticons are fighting, and into the fray comes Scorponok with Lord Zarak, who apparently Scorponok has his head, but Zarak hasn't transformed into his head. That's weird. Didn't make that right. So, the Decepticons, nothing's going to stop them. And Lyra sees her father join into the fight. The Autobots decide, they have to leave. They're just going to destroy this world, so they have to leave. And so Fortress Maximus takes that from the statue again, from the beginning, the first issue, takes that statue and bowls them over with the statue of Nebulos, and they retreat. So the Autobots then retreat, which I was not pointing to the Autobots, I was pointing to the Decepticons. And the Decepticons we have to go after them. They say, no, they're halfway to their base by now, and we're going to fight them in another time, in another place. So the Autobots get away. And when they get away, they go back to the swamp. And in the swamp, they're all reunited. Okay, you got Hot Rod there, Galen, all those guys. And Galen tells them, asks them about Earth. And basically they decide that they have to go to Earth. But Lyra shows up. And she says, Galen, tell me the truth. I see my father for who he is and all that. And Galen basically tells her to pound salt. He just basically says, the truth is that my allies and I are about to escape this wretched mudball. Draw your own conclusion. So he has to harden himself big time to tell her, go, get out of here. I don't love you. You were right about me all along. And when that happens, Duros says, why didn't you tell Lyra the truth, that Zarek lied all along? Now she hates you more than ever. And he said, I had to make her hate me. I had to make her hate me because if I didn't make her hate me, she would try to follow me to the next, and I don't want to endanger her, and I don't want to endanger any other Nebulan. We have to leave. So prepare for immediate departure. The Autobots then go up to their spaceship that has been in orbit since issue 1, and they fly off for Earth. And then the Decepticons, the Decepticons, not much later, so they follow after them not much later, and they leave. So meanwhile, the rest of Nebulos is there to have to pick up the pieces and rebuild. And then the Headmasters will go from this issue right to issue number 38 of Transformers, and this is where the Headmasters come to Earth. So we've blended this miniseries with the regular timeline. We're going back to the regular, not timeline, but the regular issues of Transformers. And we'll see what happens when the Headmasters head to Earth. So that was issue number 4 of Headmasters, the final issue of the miniseries, which I really enjoyed this miniseries. It was a cool miniseries. It was a lot of fun. And I liked how they pulled in characters like Cup and Hot Rod and Blurr and Scourge and Cyclonus, pulling them in. Then Fortress Maximus, which we're going to learn in the next issue. If you notice that Fortress Maximus was basically the same size as everybody, he never transformed into anything other than a robot. We're going to learn some more about Fortress Maximus when it gets to the regular issues of Transformers. And that will be in tomorrow's episode. So I hope you like this one better than yesterday. I really apologize for my downness yesterday. Today I'm much more upbeat and much more awake and alive. I appreciate you watching, and I want to give you my best that I can. Especially just want to convey how much I love the Transformers, and I always have ever since I was a kid. And hey, this is Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Big Damn Kid. You can also find me at BigDamnKid.com, where I have a full write-up of each of the issues. And, hey, thanks for watching.